So here's a question. What separates someone who builds a multi-billion-dollar investment firm from someone who just has good ideas but never executes?
And the truth is, I hope you fail. And I hope you fail a lot. And I hope in that failure, you take a moment to pause. I hope you, when you get kicked in the teeth and you lay on your back and you're at rock bottom, I hope you don't get up for a second. I hope you lay on your back for a little bit and try to figure out what the fuck happened and how did you get there, and start to put the pieces together and connect the dots looking backwards and say, that's where I made a wrong turn. That's what happened. And get that lesson, extrapolate that lesson.
Money is limitless. Your time isn't.
Welcome to the Bricks and Banks podcast, where real estate meets real wealth. Whether you're building from the ground up or stacking your paper to the ceiling, Steph breaks down property power plays and money moves you can act on. From first-time buyers to seasoned investors, this podcast is your blueprint for financial freedom through real estate, business, and investment. Subscribe now. It's time to build your future. This is Bricks and Banks with Steph.
We are live. Hey everyone, welcome to another amazing episode of the Bricks and Banks podcast. Today we have an interesting guest in the house. So here's a question. What separates someone who builds a multi-billion-dollar investment firm from someone who just has good ideas but never executes? Is it intelligence? Is it work ethic? Or connections? My guest today is Ari Rastegar. He's here to break that down because he has lived the whole 9 yards, and he has shown that his ability to fail, extract the lesson, and move forward faster than anyone else is what makes the difference. Ari Rastegar is the founder and CEO of Rastegar Property Company. He has invested across 38 cities and 13 states. Forbes called him the Oracle of Austin. He's currently based in Austin, Texas, and he wrote the New York Times bestseller called The Gift of Failure. So Ari, today we are dissecting your journey in the world of business and entrepreneurship and how you've gotten to this pinnacle points of being New York Times bestseller. It's amazing to have you on the podcast. Welcome today.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's a very nice intro. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So before we dive into the questions, how did you get here? Like, what was it like for you growing up? Have you always failed and picked yourself, or you just found yourself having to push through the barriers?
I was kind of an awkward kid. I wasn't really comfortable in my own skin. I had a really bad speech impediment growing up.
Really?
Yeah. And so I had to go to 7 years of speech therapy to really learn how to talk. And so I found myself being much more quiet, just kind of a little bit more reserved. But when I learned how to talk, I don't think I shut the fuck up. So I made up for it. I made up for lost time, basically. And so I knew early on that I wanted to be something or do something, and I didn't know what. I was always interested in books, always interested in learning. I think as you mentioned, I was flipping burgers and delivering pizzas just to kind of get through community college. And I studied English literature as my, kind of undergrad studies. So I didn't have really a business background per se. And then I lived in Mexico for a couple of years doing a study abroad, learning my third language. My father is a Iranian immigrant. And so, Persian culture has been a very part of my life. And anybody that knows Persians knows that their parents pressure them to be doctors or lawyers. And so I didn't really want to be a doctor. So I became a lawyer. And throughout that journey of school, through undergrad, through master's, through law school, I started to just figure out, that what I wanted to do was build things, and I didn't know that I was going to actually be building industrial facilities, apartment complexes, data centers. I just knew that if I had something in my mind and there was a vision and we could put it on paper, we could build something that would be useful, that would help people, and it turned out to become actual buildings because I borrowed $3,500 and used my scholarship money when I was in law school to start a construction company. And so in between building early in the morning and then, getting to school and studying all night, the business started to kind of formulate. And but in as studying history, reading the greatest books in the world, you see that real estate has been historically the way that wealthy families have kept and created and passed on wealth.
Yeah.
And, my grandfather was a medical doctor. My dad is an attorney. And so to both of them, who neither were business people, they saw real estate from that same lens. And I think somehow that got into my mind as this is a way to create generational wealth. This is a way create to create wealth for others, for our investors. And I wish I could tell you it was something I planned early, but it was something that I kind of fell in. Yeah.
Okay. I know that the New York Forbes have already called you the Oracle of Austin, and I'm going to call you the King of Lemonade. Why am I calling you the King of Lemonade? Because you've turned lemons, like basically all the lemons in your pots to lime, all the lemons in your pots to lemonade. So that's why I'm calling you the King of Lemonade. So today's
I
episode,
love this name. I love this name, and I love lemonade also. And I think it is much more accurate than
Mhm.
the Oracle of Austin because I am not psychic. I am just a regular guy
Yeah.
that, uh,
Because
you know,
you're
got
so well spoken, you speak so well, and it's difficult to imagine that at some point in your life you had a speech impediment. So I titled today's episode "From $3,000 Billions: How Ari Rastegar is turned failure into his competitive advantage." And that's what you're doing now. It's like writing your book and being a New York Times bestseller. Authors don't have that on the other belt, and you've been able to grab that. So let's talk
well,
about your so let's
well,
talk
look,
about your
it's
early life. Say that.
sure.
Yeah, you went from flipping burgers and delivering pizzas to building a multi-billion-dollar investment firm. So walk me through I know you mentioned earlier that you borrowed $3,500. How did that come about? What were you up to at the time?
Aside from being insane, about
Aside
aside
from
from
being in,
being crazy and being extremely delusional and risking way more than I should have. Well, like I was one of those people that, like I said, I love books and I love great stories. And like you said, I'm very fortunate, aside from everything, to have been born in the US. I'm fortunate to have my health. I'm fortunate to have my limbs. And I say that, because, having some of those luxuries early on, and they are luxuries. I mean, there's a billion people that don't have running water, and so having those things and reading great stories, I really recommend anybody that's on a journey that wants to build something, or and I say be something. You already are something. All souls
yeah,
are equal, but we are not all equal in the marketplace. So our value that we can bring to the market is where there's a lot of inequality. And so,
yeah,
like I said, as souls, as human beings, but if you want to start to figure out how to become more valuable, you have to figure out how to expand your horizon. You have to figure out how to expand your mindset, expand your capability to dream, expand your capability to have goals. And I think reading great novels for me did that, because, I grew up in a home where money was always very scarce. I was garage sailing, with my mother, saving up. I got $2 a week of allowance and was selling baseball cards and always hustling something, and because we were all told this lie that there's not enough money. And that's just not true. There's money is unlimited, all
mm,
over the world. But if our mindset is scarce and our mindset is something that believes that it's a limited resource, we act like that. But
yeah,
reading these books opened up that horizon and allowed me the capability to dream of something that could be better. And then further reading the book Think and Grow Rich, figuring out that my
mm,
thoughts were things, figuring out that I could be the master of my own fate, learning from seminars like from Tony Robbins that, I am not the manager of my circumstance. I'm the creator of my life. And I know that sounds a little corny. I find it to be incredibly accurate, to where I think the big tragedy of people is not that we set very high goals and miss, it's that we set low goals and hit. And so,
Mm.
so if we can lift our heads up and aspire to something much, much higher for ourselves, the chances of getting there are exponentially higher. And we have to educate ourselves both mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally to prepare for that. Because if you go after anything, little or big, you're going to get kicked in the teeth. You're going to encounter suffering. You're going to
Yeah.
encounter pain. You're going to encounter failure. But if you can learn that problems are the gifts that we grow from, that
Yeah.
in failure, if you pause and have some introspection, you can learn a lesson and continue to persist forward. You can live a very meaningful life, because a lot of people's success and fulfillment aren't the same thing. Success is a
Sure.
scientific process, like going to college. You get a syllabus and they say, take these classes and you get a degree. Building a beautiful, meaningful life, there's no syllabus. That's something you have to figure out on your own. And no matter what, I think if you're living the human life of this experience, you're going to encounter some sort of suffering, some sort of pain. And I like to choose the pain that I'm going to endure if I can. And I prefer the pain of discipline than the pain of regret.
Regrets.
And these are things that we can all encounter and be a part of. And I think one thing that I've been very, very fortunate, and I think was a gift, is that I've been able to endure an unbelievable amount of pain and suffering and still be able to persist forward. And in order to do anything meaningful, build a beautiful life, build a beautiful family, build a business, build a beautiful body, you're going to encounter that level of pain and suffering. And that's why the first line of my book is, I hope you fail. I hope you fail a lot.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like taken aback. Like, what kind of author is this? Why are you hoping I fail? You're supposed to be my best ally and make sure I succeed. And now you're writing a book and said, "You hope I fail." I felt very taken aback by that one. But there was something you said,
Mm.
that you said money
That was
is
the point.
limitless.
It was supposed to be honest, Stephanie. It was supposed to be,
Yeah.
look, I was delivering pizzas. Okay. I was delivering pizzas. I was flipping burgers. I remember I was making $2 an hour. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
$2 an hour. And I promised myself in that one of those moments, one of those one of those tough days where you have $4 or $5 in your pocket, you're working all night, you're tired, you don't think you're ever going to make it out of anything, you think you're going to be broke forever. You feel self conscious. You feel sad. You feel just fucking gross. I promised myself, if the dreams that were in my mind of building a multi-billion-dollar platform, helping millions and millions of people, not only with their finances, but sharing any humble piece of wisdom I've had in my life, that I promised myself, if I ever made it out of that burger place, if I ever made it to the other side where the rich and powerful and successful live, I would tell the truth. And the truth is, I hope you fail. And I hope you fail a lot. And I hope in that failure, you take a moment to pause. I hope when you get kicked in the teeth and you lay on your back and you're at rock bottom, I hope you don't get up for a second. I hope you lay on your back for a little bit and try to figure out what the fuck happened and how did you get there, and start to put the pieces together and connect the dots looking backwards and say, that's where I made a wrong turn. That's what happened. And get that lesson, extrapolate that lesson. So when
Yeah.
you get back up, you have more of a plan and you have an asset there that you can then use in the next thing, and then get knocked down and learn something else, and get knocked down and learn something else, and eventually stand there in the light and say, it worked.
Wow. I feel like this is a master class, and it's quite unfortunate we don't have all the time, because at the end of the day, time is the only limiting resource on the planet. Money, like you said, is limitless. Time is
Money
the only
comes and goes.
constraint. Yeah, time is the only constraint. But I want to milk this discussion.
Well, Stephanie, you have my email. You have my email. You can reach out
Yeah.
to me anytime you want to. And when I'm in London, you can buy me a
Yay.
tea and we can talk.
Yes, so do that. So let's talk about real estate now. I know you've invested across 38 cities, 10
Sure.
states, 7 asset classes. and you've developed over 3.5 million square feet. Most people can't even manage a single rental property, and this is what you're doing. That's why I said you're the king of lemonade. So how did you build institutional skill while maintaining the hunger and attention? Because some people are just okay with just having one or two things, but yours, you said, no, ditch that. I want to set the highest goal possible and I want to reach for it. What keeps your hunger going?
I'm glad you said that word because people asked me, and I've asked a lot in reading all these books, and I've been very fortunate to learn from some of the greatest masters in the world from all cultures, all generations. And you look at what makes somebody have a meaningful life and a successful life. At this point in my life, I'm a father of three. Success is not as interesting to me as fulfillment, me personally, because it's almost like a cliche that you see all these very wealthy people and so many multi-billionaires that I know, they're miserable. So money doesn't make you happy, by the way. It just doesn't. And I know everybody says that, and they say it as a way to say, don't get rich because money doesn't make you happy. That's bullshit too. You don't know how happy money can make you. You don't know how happy money can make you until you give enough of it away. And you start to see the impact you make. It'll make you smile ear to ear. So it can make you happy, but being fulfilled and being comfortable in your own skin is absolutely an art. And when I've studied the greatest achievers in history across everything, and that's what I do, that's my hobby, studying great achievers. I don't really care for tennis, but when Serena Williams played tennis, I watch her. I don't, or whatever. I'm watching the person be great, and that's interesting to me. And I think the defining trait or the most important attribute, and I'm not sure you can teach this, honestly, to the most successful, fulfilled achievers in the history of mankind is hunger for something. And this is why the second generation oftentimes, the parents yell at their kids, the parent becomes rich, the parents spend their time, they're poor, they become rich, and they wonder why their kids are bums. Well, they're not bums, they're just not hungry because you fed them so much that they're full.
Yeah.
They're full. And so me, no matter what I've eaten, my life is about contribution. I'm not Mother Teresa, but my life is to do something to give it back. So I grow, or I try to grow, and then I try to give back because my life is about growth and contribution. And when you have an insatiable desire to give and to contribute, give of yourself, give of your mind, give of your whatever you have, there's a way that becomes a resource that's constantly renewable, that can constantly giving back. But if you don't have hunger, intelligence won't do it. There's some of the smartest people in the world don't do shit. People that are very ambitious, they don't do it. They get too reckless. There's all of these traits have to come into this desire, this desire to do something. And if you don't have that desire, it's not going to work. And then you have to have belief, and then you have to have faith. There's a formula how this works. And I recommend to anybody to read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. My dad gave me that book when I was 13 years old. It was a defining moment of my life. I read it all the time. I finished reading it recently with my 10-year-old son, Kingston. And basically for kids, people wonder, how do you get kids to read? I get asked that by parents all the time. I'm like, it's very easy. Bribe them. If you bribe them, you get what you want. And so I bribed him and said, I'll pay you if you read. And so I paid him, and literally he thought and grew rich while I was paying him to read.
Wow.
But in seeing it through his eyes, I think I learned more than he did. But in a world where you're blessed enough to get this recording through a digital device, you have Wi-Fi. And as I said, these are luxuries. There's a billion people that don't have running water, that can't go to school. There's parts of the world for just being a woman. I have two daughters. Just by being a woman, you're not allowed to go to school. So if you have the ability to do this stuff, you can see mentors on YouTube, in these books and all these free resources that are out there. But if you're not willing to educate yourself and spend the time to learn, then you don't deserve to have that success, because, everything has a cost, and you're always going to endure pain, either the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. So at one point you have to pick which pain that you want to endure.
Just like, I can relate with what you said regarding the Think and Grow Rich book. My dad gave me my first book as well, which is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was my defining moment.
You
I
have a
just
great
pressed.
father. God bless your father.
Yay, God bless my dad. So that was a defining moment for me. Luckily for me, I was already done with uni. I was like, what, 19 or 20? I was done with uni at the time. So, like, okay. But I was really angry that why didn't I get this book earlier? But
Well, you
thinking
got it at
about
the
it, I
right
could,
time.
yeah, thinking about it, I could have, if I had read it earlier, I wouldn't have finished uni. I would have just ditched my degree and say, oh, no, you
Miss
guys.
Stephanie, that's very easy to say. I have a lot more gray hair than you. I'm a lot older than you,
Yeah,
admittedly.
yes.
Um, and I'll tell you, the young lady that would have got Think and Grow Rich at the time that you think you needed it
Mm,
probably wouldn't have had the emotional intelligence to understand it as
sure.
much. Mark Twain, one of my favorite American writers, okay, he said something that I think about very often, actually. He said a lot of things that I think about. But one thing when it comes to fathers, he said, when I was 17 years old, I
Mm.
couldn't believe how little my father knew about the world. But when I turned 25, I couldn't believe how much that old man learned in 8 years. Meaning, everybody, nobody really listens to their parents when they're too
Sure.
young. And if they're
Yeah.
fortunate enough to have parents that are
Mm,
persistent enough and
yeah.
present enough to continually tell their kids the same shit they've been telling them their whole lives, to one day that it clicks, that's an incredible, incredible blessing. My belief in talking to you for a limited time is you got it at the exact right time with
Yeah.
divine timing that was perfect for you to become the exceptional woman that you are.
Thank you so much for that. So, talking about real estate now, how did you get into the game? Because many people see real estate as that point where you're like, oh no, this is for rich people, or when I have $1 million, I'll get in. So, how did you get into the rich game?
Well, I think of it like in looking back. And again, it took 20 years. I mean, this
Yeah.
is not just my schooling alone,
Mm,
through undergraduate and master's and doctorate degree. That was 7, 8, 9 years by itself, and then I started, as you'll see in the book, I started a big entertainment business that completely failed. I went into some stuff in technology that completely failed. So, I mean, there were so many things that happened in between, but I will tell you that building relationships was so much more important than building an apartment building. And again, I hear myself say these things, and I could hear myself saying, Ari, you sound like a Hallmark card. Ari, that sounds so fucking corny. I can hear it out of my own ears, but I swear to you that taking the time to build the relationships or
mm,
being in places is important, and proximity has power. So for me, I didn't just go into real estate because I said, okay, I'm going to be a real estate mogul. I'm going to be this tycoon, billionaire real estate guy. What happened was my wrestling coach, and I was a wrestler growing up, and it was a shitty wrestler. I was that good. I just got beat up every day. But
yeah.
but my wrestling coach, who's one of my dearest friends in the world, still I talked to him yesterday. His son works for me now. His cousin was is the most famous real estate bankers in the world. Okay.
Mm,
And when I was starting my first entertainment company, or I was trying to start it, he invested in me to start this separate business, not in real estate. So as I was building that business, which failed, and I wrote a whole book about it, I got to meet him, his friends, all the people in this New York City real estate business. And because of those relationships, I was able then to start my business because those are the people that I knew. So I
mm,
defaulted into that was the quickest way and the closest relationships I had that had proximity to power, and was the quickest way I knew how to make $1 billion because of those relationships. So I utilized what was in front of me. It's like a great cook. You see someone in the kitchen or you go to your family's house, great
yeah.
cook. It's one thing to be a chef and follow a recipe. But to me, the best cooks in the way that I like to cook, not that I'm the best at anything, but is that I cook whatever's in the kitchen, whatever's in the cupboard. You look in there and you say, oh, I got some eggs, I have some potato, some, whatever, and you just put it together and you make a meal. Life is this way too, looking around at who are the people. So easily we say, oh, this guy over here that I know that runs a gas station, or this person over here that's in real estate. You're like, this is not that important. Well, it's your life. And if God, the universe, infinite intelligence put these people around you, it's your job to figure out how to follow the breadcrumbs and put it together. And in my life, the breadcrumbs that presented themselves around me were people that were in a position around real estate. And I took a little corner of it, and I was fortunate enough to keep going. And I was too stubborn to stop. Like every time I got kicked, I kept going. Every time they said no, I said, why not? Every time they said, oh, I said, maybe now. And so that alone is what put me into this business, because that was what the universe put around me. So I recommend to people to take an inventory of what has the universe or God or infinite intelligence or fate or whatever has put in you. Because look at your social networks, look at your contacts in your phone, and that will start to tell you who are the people and what are the situations that can be advantageous that you can capitalize on. But a lot of times people miss opportunity because it shows up in overalls and looks like work. And if you're not willing to work, if you're not willing to suffer, if you're not willing to delay gratification, and to not try to just look successful, but actually be successful, it's never going to work anyway, in my opinion. Maybe with AI, I'll turn out to be wrong and somebody will just spend 5 minutes and become a trillionaire. But in my limited world, for someone just being a normal guy from nowhere, it took a lot of work.
Okay, I like that. And being in the game for so long, you know the ins and outs, you know the tips and
Don't
tricks.
say so long. You're making me sound old. Don't say so long.
Okay, so what's your
I'm just
advice?
getting warmed up. I'm just getting warmed up, Stephanie. This is
Okay,
nothing.
that is you being
Nothing.
really humble right now.
This is nothing. I'm just getting warmed up. You wait.
Okay, for someone that wants to take your footsteps and get into the game, what's the best place to start?
First of all, don't follow in my footsteps. Make your own path. For real. For real. I'm being serious. You can do it because look, an idiot learns from their own failures only. A wise person learns from the failures of others. Why do you have to learn from your own? So you don't have to just touch the fire that know it burns. Read a book and know that if you touch a fire, your hand will fucking burn, first of all. But in a world of just so much knowledge that is out there, just on YouTube, I watch YouTube every day. Literally every day. I don't watch cat memes, but yesterday I watched Elon Musk talk for 2.5 hours. I'm like, how incredible is this? I get to watch the richest man in the world, or the richest public man in the world that we know about, talk. I get to see him, interact with him. I get to watch, these incredible minds from everything: scientists, chess players, environmentalists, you name it. I can watch them and hear them and learn from them. So taking the time to figure out, what do you want to do, is the real thing. Having the self-awareness to say, what do you want to do? Not for the rest of your life. People are like, oh, I don't know what I want to do for the rest of my life. That's a bullshit question. You need to learn, what do you want to do for the next 5 years? What do you want to do for the next 2 years? What do you want to do now? Because once you start doing something now, you create momentum, you create inertia, and then the rest of the things start to come out. I was an English major. Like, what was I going to do? Just be a teacher? Last time I checked, they don't pay English teachers $1 billion a year. They should, but they don't. And then over time, you start to figure out what your path is going to be. But when you make a decision, the Latin root of the word decision is incision, which means to cut off. And that's one of the most important pieces on any journey, is you have to cut off all the other bullshit and do the thing that you're doing. Because when you have a magnifying glass and the sun goes in the magnifying glass, focused energy is what makes the fire inside of you. So people, in my opinion, are trying to do so many different things and get so overwhelmed and end up leaving the couch. You don't need a to-do list of more shit to do. You need a list of what not to do and just narrow it down to a few couple things and crush those things and gain some momentum.
I like the way you put it. You don't need a to-do list of more things to do because it's
You
crazy.
need a do not list.
Yeah, because the thing is, today a lot of people don't know how to make a decision, and it irks me because sometimes you go to restaurants and you're given the menu. People just can't make up their minds on what they want to eat. It's bonkers. So yeah, the part of making
I'm
a
with you.
decision is very true. It's very, very true. People need to learn
You
how to make
have
a
to
decision
make
on your
decisions.
feet.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And, and that takes courage. I make
Yeah.
it sound easy as I'm saying it. And it's not meant to be easy, by the way. If it was easy, everyone would do it. They're not just
Definitely.
handing out $1 billion to everybody on the side of the road, so it's meant to be hard. And in the difficulty, you grow, you evolve, and you become the person that can house that level of success or that level of failure, that level of fulfillment. And the more you can fail and the better that you learn how to fail, the better you're going to do, because
Yeah.
failing well is also important. So if you fail, so before I'd screw something up, and I've screwed everything up that I can think of, by the way. But before I'd fail at something and say, oh, fuck, this sucks. Oh my God, this is terrible, and abuse myself, and the world screwed me. This is never going to work. I'm an idiot. And to go through all this poor me stuff that is so counterproductive. Now, when I fail, I'm not saying it's fun, but I can just go, that was interesting. Let's get back to work. I can look at it with a little bit of curiosity, not
Yes.
self-abuse. So failing even is a skill, like learning how to fail
Fail
well
fast.
and not letting it, not letting fuck up your head to stop you from making progress.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because we have to fail fast. That's the only way you can truly learn the lessons and
Everybody, that's how,
maximize the
look at a
time we
toddler.
have.
Look at a toddler.
Yeah.
Toddler stands up, they fall down. Stand up, they fall down. Stand up, they fall. This is the human condition. Failing
Mhm.
is how we learn to win.
I think the school system has just like brainwashed us that failure
You're
is
right.
bad. So that's
You're
why
right.
people avoid failing.
Correct.
They rather
Correct.
overthink things and try to see the end to end
Correct.
before
I agree with you.
taking the jump. So
And
talking about
that is not the human experience. We
exactly.
fail to learn. That's how everybody learns anything, is you fail and you try it again. You fail and you do it again. You fail and you do it again. And at one point, you're right. In education, they say, you failed, that's bad. And that's bullshit.
Yeah. Talking about decisions, I know you like to say we should think as a capital allocator rather than just an investor. So can you unpack what that means for us?
Yeah. So capital. So from the investment business side,
Yeah.
there's a few ways to look at this, right? Because you are your most important asset. Let's talk
Mhm.
about that. You are the asset. And this is why I spend so much time on health and wellness. This is why I spend so much time around mental health, around meditation, around posture management, vitamins, hormones. Because if I don't have me, I don't have anything. And that's not a selfish way of saying, oh, just me. It's so I can fill my cup to give. So the first investment and the most important is you, and how you deal with yourself to make yourself strong, make yourself powerful, make yourself have something to even be able to give. Because if you are not giving or contributing, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're miserable. And so the key, I believe, in my very limited experience in life, in the grand scheme of things, is that progress is what creates happiness and fulfillment. And to have progress, you have to have growth. In order to have that, you have to have curiosity. And if you're curious, it means you're humble, because if you know everything, why are you going to grow? And you hear people, I know this, I know this, I know that. Well, if that's the case, chances are you're not growing and you're not evolving. So before you can allocate your time, your energy, your money into things, you have to invest in building yourself to become strong enough to have something to give. And however you give, whatever that means. Is it your service? Is it your time? Is it your love? Is it your money? The principles of everything are everything. And great business is about obsessing over your customers, obsessing over their needs. How can you serve them more? That's how you build a $1 trillion business. It also happens to be how you build a meaningful life.
Well, that's really good. I like the way you put it. You have to be obsessive about your goals, obsessive about your business, obsessive about your customers, and look at the way you are allocating your capital. And you said one thing that was profound, that you are your own capital. You are your biggest asset. So you need to know how to
Yeah.
invest in yourself.
And not for you. And people say, oh, it's selfish to think about yourself. Yeah, you can just think about yourself, and that's short-sighted, quite
Mm,
frankly, and dumb. But if you're looking to give to self to give, then that is the investment that pays dividends. That is what
that's true.
continues to do work over the long term. So you focus on self so that you can then give exponentially. Because if you're just doing something for yourself, your energy runs out. No matter
That's
how
true.
hard, how much willpower you have willpower, I have willpower, great.
Mm,
But that's not enough. You have to have purpose. Something has to pull you to something bigger, or else you're going to quit because it
that's
hurts too
true.
much. It sucks too much. Nothing is going to get you through those dark nights of the soul unless there is something bigger than you. Because if it's just about you, in my experience, as I said, studying the greatest achievers in history, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's not enough. You don't have enough energy. You run out of it. You get tired.
And you've basically spoken from experience. You've been the founder and CEO of Rastegar Property Company. And I know your firm focuses on recession resilient assets that generate current income with long-term appreciation potential. So right now we are in uncertain economic times with the rise of AI and the disruption in the markets. What are the biggest mistakes you see smart people making right now with their money?
Not innovating, because right now you have to innovate or die. Every
Mm,
approach, every way that we've lived as human beings, how we operate our lives, how we work, how we play, how we love is
yeah.
changing, and it's changing at the fastest rate in the history of mankind. And that can be the greatest thing ever, by the way. I believe that this technology is going to do more good than bad. My belief. I'm an
Yeah.
inherent optimist. I am a lawyer. I do think shit's fucked up too, but I have both of those in my head. But
Yeah.
but this is a moment where you have to innovate or die. Going back to the drawing board on everything you do, because if you're going to keep doing things how you have always done them, you're going to get crushed, absolutely annihilated. So going
Mm,
back and relearning new skills, learning how to use Chat GPT, taking some sort of master class, but constantly being curious to put yourself in the flow of these new technologies, because the antiquated stuff, the stuff of just how it's been done, is going to get eviscerated. And so if you can be curious, you can be humble enough to
yeah.
know that you don't know, to know you can learn, to talk to smart people, watch great videos. This is the greatest time in the history of mankind to be alive. But if you don't do that, or you're not capable of doing that, it can be very, 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 very scary.
Thank you so much for that. I think we can wrap up on that note because you said something that was profound. You said, to cope in these times, you need to innovate or die. If you're not learning, you're dying.
Yeah, especially now. And the rate
Especially
used to
now.
be longer. So if you didn't adapt a new technology, it took, 20 years for your business to die. Now, if you
Yeah.
don't adapt the new technology, your business will be dead by Friday. and so
Yeah.
you have to move quickly. But if you move quickly, you can succeed so much quicker. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a double-edged sword. But yes, innovate or die. No in
No,
between.
no in between. And the market is very unforgiving. So yeah, we have it,
And the
guys.
market is also very generous. The market is also very generous
Very
if you spend the
generous.
time to understand it.
Yeah, spoken by a very wild optimist, because I love the optimistic energy you're bringing to the show. So let's have the firecracker round. So the firecracker is me hitting you with a bunch of questions and you hitting me right back. This is just to get to know you, ensure that you're not AI.
Take it easy on me, Stephanie. Take it easy on me.
What's the best investment you've ever made that had nothing to do with money?
Health, like taking
Okay.
vitamins, managing my blood work like I would financial statements, not eating junk,
Yeah.
and going and testing my blood and seeing what the hell is really going on. And it's pretty simple. Take a multivitamin, take a probiotic, move your body a little bit. maybe take a food sensitivity test, eat a lot of vegetables. It's really not rocket science. And there's a wealth of information that's out there. But taking my health extremely fucking seriously was the whole game. Everything. Because I wouldn't have the energy to do all this.
Sure, because at the end of the day, the way people neglect and underutilize their bodies is crazy. You want to be successful, you want to have $1 million, but if you don't have the body, the vehicle to enjoy that,
You
then
don't have
what's the
anything.
point?
But
Yeah.
so you got to take care of the house. You got to do the maintenance. And
Yeah.
once you start doing it, you feel I feel better at
Mm.
43 than I did at 20. It's not even close. Like
Wow.
not even fucking close. I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. Have more energy, more equanimity, more optimism ever now than I did before.
It's very good. So if you could invest in only one asset class for the next 10 years, what would it be and why?
Well, there's not a one asset class because that by
Okay.
itself is dangerous. So you want to
Yeah.
invest in uncorrelated asset classes and you want to have a level of diversity. So if it was just me and I was listening to this, I had no investment sophistication, I would buy an index fund, a low cost index fund. Vanguard, VOO is the stock ticker. It invests in a broad range of things that averages about 7 or 8% a year, which is a great return over a long period of time. It's very low risk. And I would just set it and forget it. But
Yeah.
investing in one asset class is extremely dangerous. I would recommend getting a financial advisor and learn a trade. But if you had nothing else to do, I think and I'm not a
Let's put it
financial
there.
advisor, but you want non-correlated asset investments, and you should have at least 8 of them that are non-correlated so you can weather the storm. Because although they have called me some interesting names over the years, I am not psychic. I follow the math. I follow the data. I've screwed up
Yeah.
plenty of things. We've lost plenty of money. We made a lot of money, but it's about that level of diversity and finding uncorrelated asset investments.
So this one is talking about books because I know you said the one book that changed your life was Think and
Yeah.
Grow Rich by Napoleon
Yeah.
Hill. So what's one book that actually changed how you do business?
Wow, that's a good one. Oh, there's so many. I don't even know where to start. I think 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene.
Oh,
Robert Greene
okay.
is a amazing thinker. I'm blessed enough to call him I wouldn't say we're very good friends, but we're certainly acquaintances. I love him so
Nice.
much. And that book just teaches you history, teaches you what great minds have done in the past, how to deal with leadership, how to deal with power over yourself and governing your own instincts and governing your own vices. So I think 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene would be at the top of my list. I've
Nice.
only read it 25 times, I think, at this point.
What? You're being obsessive.
Yeah, and you're right. And being obsessive is how you get there.
It's how you
Nobody
get
got
there.
anywhere. Nobody got anywhere in life that is meaningful without being obsessive. Ask any great mothers out there how they obsess over their children. Ask any great cooks, any great athletes, any great obsession, relentlessness is how you even attempt to be great.
Really. I would pen that down and make sure to read it because I haven't read that book. So what's your non-negotiable daily habits that you would never skip?
Meditation and
It's like,
breathing. I like breathing too.
well,
Breathing is a non-negotiable.
we don't have a choice. We have to breathe in it.
You do. You always have a choice.
But I think you're talking
No, but
about intentional breathing, like the deep ins and outs.
no, I was being an asshole, which I'm really good at too, by the way. You can ask my ex-wife. She can tell you that I'm really good at that. No, but meditation, I would learn from Dr. Joe Dispenza, who's an absolute genius beyond belief. I've done a bunch of his 7-day meditation courses. You can do one of his courses online, his progressive workshop, but learn how to meditate, learn how to bring balance to your brain waves, to your heart waves, and be able in this world of constant distraction, of everything coming every different direction, finding equanimity, finding a way to be more heart-centered, more mind-centered, that's going to help you make better decisions.
So how do you unwind and reset? I know you talked about meditations, but like, what is your go-to when you want to like reset your system?
I mean, that's my
You're busy.
main, that's my main one,
You do that
honestly.
every
That's
day? Like you unwind and reset every
multiple
day?
times a day.
Okay.
multiple times a day, multiple times a day. I build it into my life.
Mm-hmm.
I wake up in the morning, sometimes in the middle of the night, I'll meditate for 10 or 15 minutes
Yeah.
sometimes. But no, I meditate, I would say at least 1 hour every single day, maybe more.
I like the fact that you're very intentional about yourself, very intentional about your internal regulation. You're internally regulating yourself, healing, meditating, and renewing your mind every day. And that's what's keeping you going. Now I get where you get your hunger from, because the constant reminder and obsession, you're regulating internally all the time. And that's very profound. Yeah.
It's very kind of you. Yeah, I'm just getting warmed up, Stephanie.
Definitely. So how can we reach you? Because we need to hit you, we need to stalk you. How can we get you to
Sure.
you?
Well, you can stalk me directly.
Mm-hmm.
You know where to find me.
Yeah.
The book, you can buy The Gift of Failure on Amazon. It's on Spotify. You can listen to it on
Okay.
Spotify. And I put a list of recommended books at the end of it, which, I've
Oh, okay.
curated a list that,
Yeah.
even if you read my book and you don't like it, there's definitely good books at the end of it that you can read about. That's very important. You can find me on Instagram at Rastegar. You can just Google my name, and we're on LinkedIn and all the different platforms. You can go to rastegarcapital.com if you want to
Yeah.
learn about our investment business. But we're striving to put out good stuff and share some of this message. Like I told you when I was flipping burgers, I promised myself that if I ever got to the other side, if I ever got in the room, with, the people that I thought had impact, that I would try my best to share some of this information. And that's what all this is about.
Well, this has been a wholesome, and definitely we're coming to stalk you, because I'll make sure to leave the links in the description so the audience can
Please
go right
do.
there.
There's an email.
Check
There's
it
an
out.
email in the back of the book. There's
Okay.
an email in the back of the book, and I've read the most moving, touching. I've literally sat and sobbed my eyes out for
Oh,
reading some of the messages that people have sent from all over the world. Thousands and thousands of messages that are just, mind bending, like of just how, oh my God. So please message. Our team reads them. I read them. They mean so much to me. If you do have a story, please share it with me directly. Even if you don't share it publicly, you don't need to, but you can email me directly, and we
yeah.
do see them. And it does mean a lot to us to hear the stories.
Definitely. I can't wait to read the book and read everything, because when I saw You Need to Fail, I'm like, okay,
You're
what's this saying? I'm done.
I hate this guy.
I
This
hate this
guy's
guy
an
already.
asshole. I hate this guy already. Yeah. Good
But
luck.
this is one of the very spontaneous interviews I've had. It was very easy speaking to you, and I'm just grateful to have hosted you on the pod. I think this should be the first of many. We should have other sequels.
Anytime. Email me, and we'll definitely talk, and you'll buy me a tea when I come to London, okay?
Definitely. We'll do afternoon tea with our
I
pinky
look
up.
forward to it. It'd be very snobby, very British and snobby,
Very
having high
British.
tea.
High
Very
tea.
British. High tea. Jesus Christ. Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. I'll
Thank you
definitely
so
see you
much,
soon.
Ari. Yes. And there we
You
have it,
got it.
guys. Ari has basically broken down what it takes. He talks about enthusiasm, he talks about optimism. And one thing he said that was profound is make a decision. Money is limitless, your time isn't. Make the best use of your time, make a decision, and start now. And don't start to succeed. Have the mindset to fail fast. Don't be afraid to
Beautiful.
fail, because once you do that, you get to your goal faster than you think. So till we come your
Preach.
way in next time, let's continue to turn knowledge into action and breaks into banks. This has been Bricks and Banks podcast, and this is me signing out.